Welcome to another episode of Show Me Your RAID Log, where we talk with industry leaders about how they use RAID logs and similar tools to help project managers succeed. I'm Kim Essendrup, co-host of the Project Management Happy Hour podcast and one of the founders of RAIDLOG.com. And I've used RAID logs for years to save broken projects and to try to keep my own projects from getting broken. And so I'm really excited to hear how other leaders use theirs. With me today to talk RAID logs is Nidhi Srivastava. She's a seasoned leader with over a decade of experience in IT project management, program delivery, and agile leadership. She currently leads a global IT team and is known for her thought leadership in project structure, digital execution, and RAID discipline, which is our favorite here today. Nidhi has worked with organizations across the US, Canada, Australia, and the whole APAC region, including large enterprises, startups, and mid-tier enterprises. She helps organizations achieve their goals by driving measurable outcomes, strengthening strategic execution, and enhancing their operational efficiency. Well, hi, Nidhi. Welcome today.
Hi, Kim. Thank you for having me here
I'm,
and for
s-
the warm introduction.
oh, thank you. I'm so glad to have you here today. We connected on LinkedIn and I saw what you're doing, and then we had a chat. It was just so interesting. I'm just so glad to have you on today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the invite.
Now, one of the things we talked about, which I think is going to be really interesting to get your perspective on today, is your background doing agile project management with RAID logs.
Mhm.
Can you share a little bit about that?
That's really true, Kim. I've been working into agile environment for almost 10 years as of today. And I think what makes agile different for background, what makes agile different from conventional projects is that we do not do the entire project in one go. We break it down into smaller chunks and then release a smaller chunk. Each smaller chunk is then released one by one. So the beauty of implementing RAID logs into Agile is that you do not have to forecast your risk, your assumptions, and your issues for the entire projects in one go as
Mm,
well. So your RAIDs as well, you can do it sprint by sprint. You have a smaller chunk. You see, okay, these are the issues that I already foresee. You log them in, and then before your next release, look into your next sprint and see what other RAIDs do you see in there.
that makes so much sense. I can see how that aligns really well with an agile way of working or agile way of thinking because you're doing it one product release or one epic at a time?
Yes. So we mostly do an epic at a time and sometimes multiple epics combined into an initiative. But yes, you're right.
That's really good to hear because I think in a lot of people's minds, when they think of RAID logs, they think of, oh, that's old school project management. That's for the old waterfall people. We don't do that. But it's really cool to hear that you've gotten value out of using RAID logs while working in a very agile way.
I would say it's completely magic. Like using RAID logs in Agile is complete magic.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm looking forward to asking you some more questions about that. But can we start by backing up a little bit? And can you share a little bit about how you first learned about RAID logs and how you first encountered them?
For sure, yes. I think I've been managing specifically risk registers and risk resolution plans as independent units, maybe since forever now. And I would also always tie my individual user stories to their respective dependencies. But then, somewhere in 2018 was when I was working with a US client and I happened to see RAIDs being managed as a centralized unit in one place for the first time. Um, so the amount of transparency and clarity that I saw it bring into their project, and you know, it made it so easy for all of these stakeholders to know at any point in time what was happening, what are the dependencies we foresee, what risk can possibly happen during the execution of the project. I think it immediately made it evident that having it across any project is going to be highly impactful. And since then, it's been an integral part of any project that I do.
Oh, fantastic. So you saw some other team using it and thought, oh,
Mhm.
I'm gonna start doing that too.
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Well, to follow up on that, can you share a time when using a RAID log maybe helped you save a project or better yet, maybe helped you ha helped you from have to save a project, I guess I'm trying to say.
So many times since then, so many times. Like, especially when we're working with cross-functional teams, I think it becomes even more important to manage your RAID logs. I can pick an example from a past role where, I was working as a delivery lead for an Australian team, and it was a huge software production team, at least 400 people, if not more. Of
Wow.
course, there were multiple departments as well. So for any initiative to make it to production there were multiple dependencies and other teams included, be it the engineering team, sometimes the ops teams, and a lot of times, um, a part of the piece that you're developing could be done by another software development team as well. So there are two software development teams working in parallel on the same initiative, and then the interdependencies need to be mapped between the two teams as well. So I think it's way easier to know like what's happening in our specific teams
Mm.
than to know what's happening organization wide. So just because my team, just because what my team is doing, just because that's going well, just because my piece is green doesn't mean that the whole initiative is green. And what we did to make sure that there was transparency across the teams, across different teams in the organization was we did not just manage our RAID logs at each squad level, we also managed it at the program level. So one board, one click, and you can see everything that's happening across different departments, across different squads, and the RAIDs for each of them, how each one of them is dependent on something else, how an initiative that another team is doing could become a risk if not delivered upon time, let's say, to another team. So that level of transparency and having a very structured format of RAID logs implemented in place, I think it really helped me scale up my communication to the stakeholders. And it also really helped identify all the workarounds on time. Let's say something's not working out. Okay, we still have time just because we know in advance, just because the RAID is right there in front of us in advance. We can always figure out alternate workarounds on time. Without RAID logs there, I think it could have really been a chaos.
So you weren't just using RAID logs to manage RAID. It sounds like you were using RAID logs to break down siloed teams and improve that communication. Is that right?
That's absolutely true.
Fantastic. Now, as useful as they can, of course, any tool may have some drawbacks or maybe some frustration points. Can you share what has been your biggest pain point or frustration when using RAID logs?
So not specifically about the RAID logs, but then I think one of the key frustration that I often feel, not frustration, one of the key pain points that I often feel when I, work with newer teams who've just started with RAID is that um, adoption.
Mm.
I wish to see adoption to the level that RAID logs act as a proactive guiding document or a proactive guiding tool, and not just an artifact where you're going and logging your incidents after they're happening. So, you know, let's say for teams who are working in Agile, I think sprint planning is a good event to proactively look into your raids, identify workaround, turn your risk into an opportunity, or at least, if you can't turn your risk into an opportunity in advance, at least have a fallback plan in place. Like, if this issue happens, this is what we're going to do. Like, if you do it all in advance in your sprint planning meeting, it's going to be so much better for the rest of your sprint. But then, rather, if you wait for your entire sprint to happen and then figure out, oh, these were the issues that came in, I think that's where you lose the beauty of having RAID logs. I I actually have another one. So adoption was one. And I think another very important thing with teams who are adopting RAID logs is communication. So you have a beautifully documented RAID log with you. It's all color coded, nicely structured, well formatted, but then it's just a silo piece of document lying
Mm.
somewhere and you're not communicating about it enough. Then it just loses the entire purpose. I think the purpose of RAID log can actually only bring you benefit when you use it as a proactive tool. Look at it in advance before you start doing anything and then communicate everything that's in it. If you see a risk, talk about it. If you see a dependency, bug the people you are dependent upon. And I think that's when it actually starts to unfold the actual impact.
Mm. So your tip there is to really, it sounds like to use it, right? To help drive adoption is actively use it yourself. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, to actively use it and then to talk about it. Like, don't just
Mm,
let it sit there, just talk about it.
very good. Well, that actually transitions me into my next question, which is when we, what are your thoughts around how artificial intelligence may impact or maybe is already impacting project management, particularly around RAID management?
Um, I think like every other job role, AI has had a major impact on project management as well. At least to the extent I know, a lot of organizations today, they're already using AI to automate their routine tasks, be it sending minutes of meeting, creating project and sprint reports, creating release notes. And lately, I also see AI starting to shape up as a strategic advisor that helps PM make their decision,
Hmm.
specifically when we come down to RAID management. So I think whenever an initiative or a project is being analyzed or a new change is being introduced, what AI can do is it can perform an impact analysis based
Hmm.
upon whatever it knows about the project, whatever it knows about the initiative, whatever it knows about the same client or the organization's ways of working in the past. And once it's done an impact analysis, I think an outcome of that can be a list of all of the risks and dependencies and assumptions or issues that it foresees. So, and in fact, on top of that could be like, not just a list of the issues and the risks, but also suggestive action items. If these are the risks I foresee, and these are my suggested action items. If you proceed it this way, then maybe you'd be in a better shape. And then I think that is going to help so many project managers do their jobs so much better. Um, another area where I think AI can help with RAID logs is, like I said, like I spoke earlier about communication. I think AI can be the best communicator. Each time you see a risk, send an email to the owner. Each time you think a dependency is like 15 days prior to the day it should be done, send an email to all the people who could possibly be working to resolve it.
I like that insight of using AI to help you analyze the impacts of a change because as much as we try to stay on top of our projects, there may be some unanticipated things that we don't think about.
Agree. Yes.
Okay. Excellent. Well, my last question for you today is what is your favorite tip or trick for using a RAID log that you can share with our audience?
My favorite one is color coding it, like
Oh,
changing changing all my reds to ambers and all my ambers to green is my favorite thing to do. I I wish all my reds could change into green every day on its own, and I would have a wonderful life after that. But I think another really important one is knowing your stakeholders. So
um,
telling a C-level exec that developer A is dependent upon developer B to get the development of task Z done is not going to be of enough value to them. But that level of granular detail is really important when it is brought up in your daily stand-up meetings where
mm,
all of your developers are present. You can actually figure out workarounds to make things happen. Know who your stakeholders are. Send them the right version of your RAID logs. Your program manager needs something else. Your C-level execs need something else. Your development team needs something else. Identify that and send them exactly what matters to them so that they receive only relevant data. Because if they start to see data that is not relevant to them, they would most likely start to ignore your emails and your RAID logs because it's not important. But then if they know that they only get notified when something is of value to them, they're gonna pay more attention to it.
that's so good. Tailoring the message is so important because, yeah, if you send an executive your list of 200 risks, it's going to they're not really going to understand that so much. So that is so true. Being able to customize that to your audience when you communicate. Outstanding. Well, uh, thank you so much for spending time with us today and sharing some of your project management experience. Now, if our audience wants to find out more about the cool things that you're doing, or if they just want to connect, how best can they do that?
I can share details on my LinkedIn. I'd be happy to connect with people on LinkedIn. I also share practical content on project delivery, change management, and digital execution through my weekly post there. And for anyone into delivery roles, Scrum Master, project managers, I love connecting, exchanging ideas, and see how your raid log looks, how you do your project management stuff.
Outstanding. So we'll have those links in our show notes. Nidhi, thank you so much for taking time to join us today and showing us your RAID log.
Thank you so much for inviting me here, Kim. Has been a pleasure.
For our audience, if you'd like to step up your project management game, you can check out our new RAIDLOG application at raidlog.com. We're bringing the tried and true RAIDLOG into the 21st century with the only platform totally dedicated to giving project managers the tools that they need to succeed in project delivery, starting with a RAIDLOG. Come check us out at raidlog.com.